And what better way to start episode 2? Hey, what's up? Happy New Year to everybody. 2022 sounds kind of weird. Saying that sounds like something out of the Twilight Zone. 2022, something I thought I'd never see. I thought I'd be dead long before that. It's still time. But like I said, this is episode 2, and we're doing something a little different today, hanging with the beast. And what I like to do, too, with this show is, since we're talking about all music from the 90s, I like to dedicate different episodes to different bands that have meant a lot to me and the whole 90s movement. And as you can hear by the intro, probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest songs of all time. Forget the 90s. I think it's one of the best tunes ever. In fact, I remember back in the day, I used to have a lot of friends who were just heavily into rap and R&B. Lo and behold, I got them into Plush. One of the friends who I'm talking about is a good dude. I haven't seen him forever, but I see him on social media these days. That seems to be the place where you see a lot of your friends that you haven't seen in a long time. Mikey D. I remember when we were like brothers for a little while there. We like literally did everything together, and I remember kind of rubbed off on each other musically. And I remember him saying to me, "What's that song you're always listening to?" I remember saying Plush, and he was like, "What the hell is Plush?" And eventually got him into it. Get him hooked one way or another. But we are talking about all things Stone Temple Pilots today. And listen, if you're like me, it's one of my favorite bands of all times. In fact, I think it's one of the greatest bands of all times. I think it's they were one of the most underrated bands of all time. And we could say that for so many different groups that grew in that era, but they especially stand out because I think that a lot of people kind of group them incorrectly, and they also don't place them properly in the area of the 90s. Again, we go back to that word grunge, and again, that seems to be an umbrella term for so many different groups. Now, they didn't come out of the Seattle scene, number one. When I say in the Seattle scene, I'm talking about, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Mother Love Bone, all those wonderful, great bands. They were from California, actually, which I at first I wasn't aware of that at all. But of course, as you grow really fond of a group and grow fond of their music and their writing and of their members, you start to learn more and more about them. So, just going back, I remember the first time I ever heard Plush. To my knowledge, it wasn't their first hit off their album. It was the first radio hit that I remember hearing. But to be quite honest, it wasn't. I believe it wasn't the first radio hit either. I remember my middle brother, Steven, who was a big fan of theirs too. He had told me about Sex Type Thing, and then I remember finally hearing Sex Type Thing, and then finding out that had actually come out before Plush. But Plush was the more prominent, more famous tune that came out. And you know, listen, if there's ever a song that had some of the greatest lyrics of all times, I always say, I think I said this in the first podcast, and I say this even now, there are certain things I wouldn't tattoo on my body. When it comes to musical lyrics, they have a group of lyrics that I would tattoo all over my back. Where you going for tomorrow? That's just some of my most famous, but my most favorite lyrics. Just from singing them over and over and over again. They just always kind of resonate in your head, even today. Listening to the song, it never seems to get old. When I hear it, it's always on my list of all time favorites, especially when I need something to go to, when I need a go to song. I mean, where you going for tomorrow? Where you going with the mask I found? And I feel when the dogs begin to smell. I used to love to say that line, when the dogs begin to smell, or scream it out when I was much younger, because for some reason, I don't know, it got a few girls to turn around. Not that they liked me. I wouldn't like me either if that was if that was the thing that that you were saying. But anyway, yeah, again, just one of the easily one of the greatest songs ever, coming from one of the greatest albums of all time, in my opinion. Core was the album I'm talking about. And that's the thing that really blew them up big time. I remember that album coming out, and hit after hit from that album. They won so many awards at that time too, whether it was MTV Video Music Award for Best New Artist, MTV Video Music Award for Best Alternative Video. Here's another thing. What does alternative mean? We're going to go back to that whole thing with grunge, alternative and grunge. Again, terms that were just used to kind of, I don't know, to put things into perspective for some reason when it's just music, or maybe it's a little different type of music. But I guess that every era, every time, every group needs some type of thing to create to kind of feel special, or whatever. When I say group, I don't mean the musical group. I mean the people who are, out there just kind of coining these terms or whatever the hell. I mean, same thing happened with rock and roll. Same thing, I guess, happened with jazz, blues, whatever. Although they do say that all music is stemmed from the blues. So I guess, I don't know. What do I know? But yeah, getting back to the awards, they had won Billboard Music Award for #1 Rock Song of the Year, American Music Award for Favorite Pop Rock's New Artist. I mean, the list went on and on and on and on. It's just a killer of an album. I know they always do these remasters and re-releases and whatnot where they have some new cuts on the album, where they have extended amounts of time for the certain songs. So if you get a chance and you have never had the pleasure of listening to Core, you're really doing yourself a disservice. I don't care if you like chamber music, you must listen to that album for all things music. I mean, musically, lyrics, it stands out by itself. I mean, from the first hit on that album, Dead and Bloated, I remember we used to get a kick out of that because, it starts off really low with him kind of, again, we didn't know what he was saying at first because, if you didn't have the album, you couldn't read the lyrics. There was no internet back then. Now you can look it up. And then there's that intro, dun, dun, dun. If you've ever seen them live, he used to do that. The late great Scott Weiland used to open that with a megaphone and scream it into the crowd, or he would do something even much cooler. He would have the crowd sing it from the megaphone. He would turn the megaphone around and have the crowd sing it, which was even more awesome. So again, the album starts off with that badass hit, Dead and Bloated. Then comes Sex Type Thing, which is all time kick ass. I mean, just a great song, great beat. Um, in my opinion, one of the most underrated songs from the album is Wicked Garden. Had probably one of the best videos of all time too. Um, from that time, Wicked Garden is by far one of the most underrated songs off of that album. It had the most badass of videos from that time. From a time when they did have videos, there's that all the fire in the background. You saw Wyland dancing all type of freaky, which was always awesome. Which again, if you've ever seen him live, and he used to go into that whole just all those dance moves he used to do, man. It was like a combination of James Brown meets Iggy Pop meets David Bowie meets Michael Jackson. It was all badass, man. His movements were like uncanny. There's real cool videos of him doing it early on, I think in the mid 90s or early 90s when they were first coming onto the scene on Letterman, whatever other late night show, Jay Leno, whatever there was back then. But yeah, kick ass, man. So Wicked Garden is just a great song. And of course, the list goes on and on and on for that album. Sin, Naked Sunday, of course, the hit Creep, which was, again, that was another song that started to pull, I think, all types of people in. All types of musical fans, and you pulled them in with that song because it just, again, it's very kind of mellowed down, some great lyrics, and again, it was another song called Creep that was famous at the time, long to go with Radiohead's Creep. So a lot of things with creeps. But yeah, and also too, which made another thing more famous for that song was the time that they did the acoustic show live on MTV. And of course, there's that great shot of Weiland sitting in the rocking chair, just kind of rocking back and forth, singing the song. And again, I think it's there that you can appreciate his lyrics even better because it's acoustic. You can even appreciate the band's music a lot more. Than this Piece of Pie, Plush, as we said, one of the greatest songs of all time, Wet My Bed, my buddy Frank Ferry and I used to get a kick out of that when we were younger because we used to, again, I don't know, Wet My Bed, us being like teenagers. And again, saying Frank Ferry, I give him a shout out because he's my musical brother, man. I mean, if there's another dude, one of the few dudes I know who's like just a music dictionary. So him and I had the pleasure of seeing, my God, we've been to so many concerts together, whether it was, I actually saw Stone Temple Pilots for the first time with him and his brother Andy at Nassau Coliseum when it was Nassau Coliseum. want to laugh, I was wearing like a tight. I don't know. It was like before Under Armour. The shirt came from Bang Bang. If you're familiar with Bang Bang, it was a real Guido store. And I remember wearing that. I was like 235 at the time. So I must have looked kind of weird wearing a real tight muscle shirt to a show like that. I don't know, with a big chain on outside. Somebody's alarm's going off out there if you can hear it. Your car is being robbed or somebody wants your windshield or some shit. Anyway, the good thing about these mics, they pick up everything. They could pick up your dog speaking Portuguese in the corner or some shit like that. But getting back to what I was saying, yeah, me and him, we saw so many shows together, and we saw them live for the first time at the Nassau Coliseum, as I mentioned in the first show, the episode rather. It was when there was that stoner went into that crazy dance to the song Daisy. Him and I would die and laughing at that guy. Then there was Cracker Man, which is such an underrated song, man. I mean, that is a kick-ass tune. I always have that on my gym tunes when I want to lift heavy and I need something to really push me over. And I have like those go-to tunes that I need that I listen to when I really need it. Cracker Man is definitely one of them. I think what else? Oh my God. I know it's always Even Flow is on there. March of the Pigs from Nine Inch Nails. I got a whole variety of them. Everything by Tool. I mean, every song Tool had was just kick ass. But yeah, getting back to this, another good thing is that a lot of people sometimes we don't take into consideration the musical genius and work that went into writing this album. And again, I consider the DeLeo brothers, Robert and Dean, to be absolutely phenomenal musicians, but also songwriters. And I think Eric Kretz, the drummer, was one of the most underrated drummers there was at the time in that scene. And what I love to see is when you're going through, the lyrics and the music, and you see that a lot of them took a hand in writing a lot of the lyrics. Um, and again, I think they're one of the few bands that um, come together musically to make a dynamic and intricate sound. And I think a lot of people always try to I heard a silly opinion once that people said that, they kind of wrote off the backs of other bands that came out at the time. They sounded a little too much like Pearl Jam. And I shake my head and say, what? Not even close, bro. Like, not for nothing, no disrespect to Pearl Jam. I mean, one of the most phenomenal bands there are just a kick-ass arrangement of musicians and Eddie Vedder and the longevity they've been able to generate and the great songs and albums and the tours and whatnot. But you can't compare the two voices whatsoever. I mean, they're two different entities. I mean, even in types of performance, totally different. Okay, so I never understood that argument at all. But again, this is just one of my favorite albums of all time. Uh, another guy I really have to give credit to, and I believe he was their producer for all their albums, is Brendan O'Brien, and that's a name that shows up so many times in music now. Well, has been for a long time. I mean, he was an American record producer, mix engineer, musician. He's worked with many, great artists such as the great AC/DC, Pearl Jam, who I just mentioned, STP, Bob Dylan, Rage Against the Machine, Bruce Springsteen. He's had such a huge hand in making their music come together, putting together these wonderful albums and so many other great groups. So, again, it's a mixture of so many good things that you see come together when there's these kick-ass groups that together where they make a kick-ass piece of work such as this. And just stepping back a little bit, I really like the history of the band. I don't know if anybody likes to read out there. I'm a big reader, but Weiland had I want to call it, I think he had a hand in writing the book, Not Dead and Not for Sale, which came out a couple years ago. It's a real, about 200 pages, chronicles his personal life and the band and all the struggles he's gone through. And it's just a wonderful read if you really, a big fan of the band or just big, into learning about a musician's or a lead man's life. Excuse me. Uh, you know, the band used to be called actually Mighty Joe Young, which is I think that's a kick-ass name too. I think there's that movie with the huge gorilla uh, with the similar name. And again, they grew up in San Diego, I believe, or either San Diego or Long Beach, California. But whatever the case, they are from that area, either San Diego or Los Angeles, but they all got together. Um, Obviously, had loads of talent, man, as you could see. And they started off, I guess, as many bands at the time did, playing small gigs, garage gigs for the friends, whatnot, and they build a fan base. That's usually the way it usually happens. Um, and lo and behold, they had that kick-ass, came out with that kick-ass first album. I mean, let's face it, a lot of groups that come out, man, don't have the ability to put together such a wide variety of music for a first album. I mean, and they hit on all cylinders. So again, they had been at it, I think, since 1985, or at least what I read. Um, the thing I always loved about them was also too was the name of the band, Stone Temple Pilots. For so long, you always try and put together what the name of a band has to do with the type of music they're putting out there. And I remember, like, that is, at the time, being a teenager, I thought that is like a real badass rebellious name, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, it sounds like something either medieval or something from like another civilization type thing, like Sumerian or Mesopotamian or something like that, which I always really liked. Um, and then, of course, climbing the charts after that wonderful album, they obviously, moved on to their second album, which a lot of people, love just as much as the first, and I could totally understand it because I'm in the same boat. Um, another kick-ass album, Purple, and again, I think it's what are the odds that a group can come together again and just put together a huge variety of hits in 46 minutes. I mean, if you look at that album, Meat Plow, kick-ass, absolute kick-ass. Vaseline, which is probably one of the more famous songs from that album because of that great video. That video still holds up today, man. There's that whole little segment where, like, Weiland's doing that crazy dancing with the top hat and the cane. Kind of looks like Abe Lincoln. I used to do that to make, again, my buddy Frank laugh, which I didn't do probably a good job of because I can't dance to save my life, kind of like Frankenstein on roller skates. Uh, Loungefly, that was the tune. I remember that, that used to play in the intros to MTV. They used to use that. Interstate Love Song, another great song, man. With that, another great video for all of you that don't know what I'm talking about. Go on YouTube or Google Interstate Love Song video. Begins with like that 20s, 30s kind of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin clown with the big nose and all that stuff. Absolutely great album. The thing, song rather, what I used to love from that video was Weiland riding in the car with the boa on his like shoulders with the cowboy hat with the sunglasses. I always thought that was absolutely badass, man. Again, another good thing I loved about him was he had his own identity. The band had their own identity. They weren't a copy. They weren't a replica or something else. Like, they were original. And for that time, originality was where it was at. So many of the great groups that I had mentioned before had originality, which I don't want to say we don't have today, but it's a little hard to find sometimes because you really have to dig through it and find it. But these groups, STP, Pearl Jam, um, 9 Inch Nails, Typo Negative. Speaking of which, let me backtrack a second. Typo Negative. Just want to say today would have been lead man Peter Steele's 60th birthday, and Peter Steele and Typo Negative hold a special place in my heart and soul. It's probably my favorite band of all time. Um, had the had the pleasure, I had the luck, I had uh, I don't even know any other word to say it. I get to see them live 14 times, and want to laugh all 14 times with my buddy Frank. Much respect to you, Frank. We went back to back nights to see them a couple of different times. We knew the set, so we didn't really give a shit. Whatever, man. Every time we saw them, absolutely kick ass. My favorite band of all time. Special shout out to Peter. I was also blessed, humbled, and lucky to come to know his niece, Marie, who's become a good friend. I met his family several times, and I actually met Peter, I think, 2 or 3 times at those at a couple of parties. Twice was at Duff's, I think, and the rest of the band, whether it was Johnny Kelly, Kenny Hickey, and Josh Silva, all were absolutely awesome, man. And every time they performed, it was sick. So Special shout out to Peter on his birthday, which would have been his 60th. Another gentleman gone too soon. Another musical genius, someone I looked up to from the time of when I was coming up. That another great one gone. So Peter, Scott Weiland, Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Kurt Cobain, Shannon Hoon, and on and on. The list just keeps on going. So getting back to this Stone Temple Pilots, though, getting back to Purple. Then there was Still Remains. Pretty Penny was a kick-ass tune too. I mean, that's another song that just holds a special place too. Because I remember, again, when this album came out and you went to buy it, either you bought it on CD or you bought it on tape, and each thing, had the little booklet. You'd open it and read the lyrics. There wasn't really no internet back then, so you couldn't look up Stone Temple Pilot lyrics to Purple. And what I used to do, like a geek, is I used to buy it on tape, put it in my Walkman, and walk around, blast the music to the point where I couldn't hear anything else, going on in the outside world, which is the way I like it, even to this day. And I would read the lyrics and try and learn them as much as I can, and kind of, read all the little notes and things and the pictures and study things that were related to the album. But Pretty Penny is one of the songs I tried to learn pretty quickly. Another great song off that album that never gets its due, probably one of the greatest titles to a song I've ever heard, is Silver Gun Superman. And there's that little segment at the end where I think it's Scott Weiland laughing. You just hear someone kind of go, oh God. And my buddy Frank and I always used to get a kick out of that because we kind of noticed the same thing. I'll never forget. I think I bought the album, and then I remember I must have listened to Big Empty. Had to be anywhere from 19 to 29 times back to back to back to back to back. I wore that fucker out. I wore that tape out. I was possessed by that song, not only because it was from The Crow, which is one of the greatest movies of all time, also because it had one of the greatest soundtracks of all time to a film. It can never be redone or duplicated again. I don't care what anyone says, but also because that song just, again, had wonderful lyrics, wonderful melody. It starts off very mellow, and then it just kind of boom takes up. Time to take a home. I mean, kick ass, man. If you've ever had a chance to see him do that live, which obviously you can't do that anymore, or you go back to that acoustic show, you'll see what I mean. His lyrics were kick ass, and the band was so in sync. Unglued, absolute kick ass song. Okay, another tune that doesn't get its due, had that like really uppity, I got this feeling coming over me. I can't sing to save my life. It's like Darth Vader, I don't know, dying or some shit. And then obviously, Army Ants, Kitchenware, and Candy Bars. Two great songs. If there's that hidden tune on this album, I think it's at the end, and I think it was, not everybody had it. I don't know why, but it's just like a melody sung by Scott Weiland and the band. The second album, 12 Gracious Melodies. It was hilarious, man. It was like a spoof or whatever. But again, amazing album. Amazing album. It just it destroyed. So back to back, they had these two albums come out that absolutely did crazy damage to the music world. And if you look at what these albums did in terms of the musical charts, like just looking at Purple right here, it sold more than 6 million albums in the U.S. Went platinum 6 times. Okay, even overseas, they sold 300,000 in Canada, more 140,000 in Australia. So on and on, the list goes with this album. So they were on their way and then some. I mean, they were just rolling on all cylinders, man. And the good thing about them, if you were a fan, you could appreciate two different albums. And you had so much to choose from with the two songs. And then just looking back at the numbers on Core, again, sale wise, they were killing, man. They were killing. United States alone went platinum 8 times, over 8 million albums sold, and they had a variety of number one hits off both albums. So again, you have to appreciate that if you're a fan of music. You have to. And the good thing was too, there wasn't that long of a time between the two albums. One was in '92, Core, and Purple was in '94. So they were killing it. in that time. And again, off that album, they had won so many albums, so many awards. American Music Award for favorite heavy metal rock artist. There you go. So they're considered grunge, heavy metal, rock, who knows, alternative, whatever you want to call them. They're the Stone Temple motherfucking pilots. Okay. What else you got here? American Music Award for favorite pop rock band duo group. They're trying to find things now. Interstate Love Song won for MTV Music Award for Best Alternate Video. Definitely agree. Interstate Love Song won for MTV Video Music Award for Best Metal Rock Hard Video. What else? For Best Group Video, for Best Cinematography. Big Empty won for Movie Award for Best Song for Movie, being The Motherfucking Crow. If you've never, when people tell me they never saw The Crow, I don't know. It's like saying you never washed with a bar of soap. I put it up there like, what? Are you kidding? You know, like I just can't. I can't. There are certain things I can live with. There are certain things I just can't deal with. And people tell me they're not fans of Elvis or Johnny Cash. The conversation automatically stops. I'm like, okay, it's been nice. I wish you well. I don't know. Walk sideways. Tie your shoes together. Talk to Jesus. I don't know what to tell you. You know, there are certain things I can deal with. There are certain things I can't not. And when you tell me I've never seen The Crow, oh my God, that kills me, especially if you were growing up during that time and you never saw The Crow. I mean, come on. You're killing me, man. But yeah. Uh anyway, moving on to their third album they had, which was again, leave it to this group to come up with the best names for albums. Tiny Music, dot, 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 Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop. And again, you probably couldn't get away with that today with everything that goes on, because the Vatican may have gotten mad. The Pope may have gotten pissed that he wasn't even getting, the Vatican was being called upon, or he wasn't getting a cut of the action. But either way, on the album cover, they had that great picture of that pretty lady in the swimsuit with the alligator next to her, and in the back is all those like religious symbols. This is a great album, man. I don't think it was that much different. I mean, from their style, but it was in a sense. And I think the song that really, in my opinion, really catapulted this album was Lady Picture Show. Again, another great video, kind of black and whitish, and you really appreciate the just the total package of the music and the lyrics. Um, Absolutely excellent song. The two songs that, of course, came off that album that were like huge commercial hits, they started playing on the radio, was Big Bang Baby and Tripping on a Hole in the Paper Heart. And again, I think that if you didn't have the luxury to see them live, I remember when I saw them live with my buddy Frank again, man, Big Bang Baby at the Nassau Coliseum, all balloons came down from the ceiling, which was awesome, man. And again, that was the same show where I saw Wyland like change outfits like three times. He had a silver suit on. I never saw that before. He looked badass is not the word, man. But Big Bang Baby, Tripping on a Hole in the Paper Heart. What else they had? Oh, Tumble in the Rough is such a good tune. I mean, another underrated song. That's on my gym go list when I need it. That the lyrics are so cool. That intro. Again, it's when you go back and listen to the song so many different times that you appreciate the sound that they created, and you appreciate the two DeLeo brothers and Eric Kretz and Weiland as a group, because they gelled. I mean, they gelled like certain groups I've never heard before. And again, I think that everything happens for a reason, and timing is of the essence. So it's just an amazing thing to me that a group with this much talent that gelled together came out at a time when so many other groups that had a wonderful sound gelled together as well. And I keep on naming the same ones, but hey, man, it's what it was. And again, whether it was Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, uh, um, Hole, all these groups just kind of, Nirvana, all just gelled together as a whole, and created a frenzy during this musical period. So yeah, Tumble in the Rough is so underrated. Pops Love Suicide's another tune off that album, man. Again, it's got that. That's like it takes you on a journey, that song, and that's got like if I had, it's one of those songs that if I had to put like into a Stone Temple Pilots package and kind of just says listen to this, it would be one of those because it's got that great don da don da don da dun, it's a pop's love suicide. Great song, man. And So I Know is a great song. Slowed down. It comes after a couple of up tempo tunes, and again, it shows you their how diverse they were as a band, that they could go all these different directions and go really hardcore and then come back down soft and kind of sing something a little more mellow. Art School Girl is a badass song. Art School Girl kind of reminds me of a 60s tune, or a 60s or 70s tune. I don't know why, but it just does. It's just so like chill and relax. Great lyrics. I got a girlfriend who goes to art school. Oh man, it's just it's such a wonderful combination of things going on there, man. Adhesive is a kick-ass tune, man. Again, you really appreciate the diversity of the music and Weiland's lyrics there. He has that ability to he have that fire and that grungy like voice. But then there was also too, I think on this album especially, you started to really appreciate him vocally because he was really hitting all highs and lows. And again, there's another musician that who he also reminded me of, which always held a special place in my heart, still does because he never died, is Jim Morrison, the Lizard King. Weiland had that built right into him. So again, Lizard King, Jim Morrison, David Bowie, Iggy Pop, even a little Lou Reed, all mixed into one, man. Ride the Cliche, you know, another great song, man. This album, I think, had so many songs that I felt just never got their proper due, and to hold up through time. Ride the Cliche is definitely one of those songs. Um, Wonderful tune. And then, of course, there's the song I've spoken about before. Probably one of the best instrumental songs I've ever heard in my life. It's only 2 minutes and 18 seconds long. Daisy. I mean, if there's a song that you just need a song to listen to, you want to chill, whatever, put that song on, hit repeat, 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 replay, replay, replay. It's so good, and just the way the guitar, it reminds, it almost has like a Hawaiian sound to it. I mean, oh man, so good, man. Seven Cage Tigers, great song to any album with. It's funny, when I saw them play live, there was this huge screen behind them, and they had all these like big pictures of big tigers and whatnot. So, again, phenomenal album. Just kicked ass all over the place, man. And again, music number wise, uh, went platinum, over 2 million. Again, these are just numbers I'm getting from the internet. I don't really know what the exact numbers are, but I'm just reading from these. I don't know how long these have been updated, but again, went did the damage, did the thing that they did, and won a whole bunch of things, uh, accolade, a whole bunch of awards and whatnot. I think, let's see, Tripping on a Hole and a Paper Heart won for a Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance. What else? And it was at that time too that I believe after that album things started to go south a little bit because of the legal trouble that Scott Weiland had gotten into. Because again, they were kicking ass. Three albums, that were lights out. I don't know many bands that are able to do that. I don't know too many bands that are able to have that luck, or that you know time together in such a short period of time and just put out so many different great hits. I mean, count the number one hits that came from um, that came from this group in that time. It's amazing, man. It really is. Um, Again, I know unfortunate Scott Weiland had his legal trouble, and I think it started to show its head somewhere around there. But at this time too, actually 1998, he had put out that 12 bar blues album, which is a phenomenal album, and didn't get its due.
as an album. Um, had so many wonderful number one hits on it. Want to laugh? I actually had tickets to see him live. I forgot where it was, but unfortunately, I never got a chance to see him live solo promoting this album because of his legal troubles at the time. After that album, it was kind of really sad to see because I believe they disbanded for a little while, and I know some of it had to do with Weiland's legal troubles and whatnot, and his addictions, which is always, you know, always kind of very sad to hear about. And again, I think it goes along with so many of the wonderful artists that were from that time too that may or may not have or may have had the same problem or thing occurring. But yeah, unfortunately, I think they disbanded for a little while, and it was then that Weiland had put out that 12 Ball Blues album, and they actually took on another lead singer uh, and became the band Talk Show. Lead singer they recruited was Dave Couch. So it was Dave Couch, the two DeLeo brothers, and Eric Kretsch. You want to laugh? I never heard the Talk Show album. I'd still something I would like to do to this day, but I haven't had the chance to do it. But yeah, it was when then that Weiland had put out that great solo album, 12 Ball Blues. If you really want to hear a wonderful album, definitely give that a listen because I think that you'll appreciate it as a musical fan and as a Weiland fan, as a Stone Temple Pilots fan for that matter. And it had some wonderful songs from that album. Lady Your Roof Brings Me Down, such a good song. Jimmy Was a Stimulator. Great album, man. It didn't get its due, and I don't know why. I never understand how something gets its due and how something doesn't get its due. It doesn't make any sense to me. But listen, I said it. It's a great album. Listen to it. After that, they had retooled and reteamed and put together probably one of the best comeback albums, if that's what you want to call it, of all time. Four. What a great title. Fourth album. I mean, it by itself just absolutely killed. Absolutely killed. In fact, if you go back and listen to that album first, I mean, I think that you'll appreciate that so much. And then even if that's the first album you're ever listening to, but number four was just a great album, man. Had that great, the picture on the cover was just that white star, just the number four on the bottom, and just the title, Stone Temple Pilots. And again, it came out in let's see, in '99. So think about it. They released albums all through the '90s. Yeah, four is definitely by far just such a wonderful album, man. And I was so happy to see that they had come back together to do another album because I was, as a fan, man, I was really worried that they were not going to come back together again. And like I was saying before, man, in that short amount of time in the '90s, man, they just pounded out four amazing albums. Core, Purple, Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop, and now this four. And the funny thing about this album was I think it kind of changed their sound a little bit. Like it was very. It starts off, of course, with their hit from that album, which was Down, which was really hard. In fact, it sounds downright kind of metalish, if that's what you want to say about it. But it definitely was a great thing to have them back together. Uh, you know, after the three albums they had put out, and after Weiland's troubles and whatnot, and it's groups like this. I mean, like I can only speak for myself that you always want to keep going and going and going, and you want to keep just seeing them put out stuff and kind of be timeless. And it's funny. Being it's now 2022, I don't think I'll ever get used to saying that, man. It feels so fucking weird. Being it now that it's 2022, and unfortunate that we don't have Scott Weiland with us anymore, and it's unfortunate that the original lineup isn't together anymore of the band. It makes me hold this group even in a more special, higher place, and I think I can say that. For the other groups that I look up to so much, whether it be Soundgarden, whether it be Alice in Chains, again, another group that is still together with a different lead singer. Um, I just think that, again, when these groups were together, and were just cranking out hit after hit, album after album. It just puts them in such a special place, musically and creatively, and especially when you were growing up during that time. That it's so different than being born later on, and looking back on things, not knowing, not being there when this music was coming along, not being there for when it came out, when you saw the videos, when you first heard the song on the radio, and it wasn't that big of an influence on social media, and you didn't have Facebook, Instagram, your mother's ass, whatever else there is to kind of promote it. You just had to kind of find it on your own. Maybe a friend of word of mouth, friend told you, you heard, like I said, you heard it on the radio, you saw the video, maybe you saw the live concert acoustically on MTV when MTV used to actually have music videos. That was a special time, man. That was a special time. It was a special time when radio stations, again, had those blocks where they would just dedicate it to all the new acts or new up and coming songs or new albums, or maybe they would play a couple of songs off an album that you didn't regularly hear. So it was always a good thing to. Uh, it was a special time, man, and that's why it was so important that they had come back together after they've had their hardships or whatever, and were able to put out another album, another wonderful album for that matter. There was a song off four that I think never got its due. One of the great titles for a song, Heaven and Hot Rods. In fact, some of the greatest lyrics I've ever heard in my life. I think it's one of their greatest songs and some of the greatest lyrics ever written. Um, there's that it's a kind of a really hard song, but she walked in with her alligator sister trying to get to heaven on Tuesday. What better fucking lyrics are there than that? That says everything to me. Sometimes in a song it's those one or two liners that you have that kind of just capture everything, that brings you in, that kind of just like that says it all. And I'm sorry, but those lyrics right there, um, do it for me, man. That's a great song off the album. Pruno is a kick-ass song, man. Again, I think it's another song that never got its due. Um, Loved it. It was one of the songs off that album that I really enjoyed. Um, and I think that the album itself, them taking a break from making music and then coming back with this album, kind of, I think it opened another door for them creatively, because again it sounded to me in that album, if you listen to it, there's a hardcore metal edge to that album. Down, Heaven and Hot Rods, Church on Tuesday. It's such a wonderful mix of so many things going on, not just musically, but with the lyrics. Going back to Down too. I mean, if you listen to that intro, Durner, Durner, pleased to meet you. Oh man, that is just badass. Badass. I've been waiting, him screaming, and that killer ass guitar, the killer ass drums. Oh, what an album. Church on Tuesday is a great song too. It's another one of those songs. Again, I keep saying it over and over, but it's just because, just the way I feel, that unless you're a hardcore fan or like really know your stuff, it just, to me, it never got its due. Um, and it's off the album. Like, I think it was the fourth song, and it's kind of it it sounds kind of different, but it kind of falls into the Stone Temple Pilots type sound. And I don't believe it. Is she really gonna get? It's just such a. Again, they are one of the few bands that have the ability to pump out song after song, album after album, and for the most part, they're all fucking good. They're all good. That's what's scary. I mean, my friends and I, we've had this conversation so many times of that you can pick and choose from their work and just play their catalog, and you're never disappointed, or it reminds you of a special time, or it's you come to reappreciate a song that you heard from them, or you appreciate something even more. My friends and I and my family, we have that with this group, man. We have that. And I think if you're from the same time period that I am and you experienced this stuff growing up, man, you this music does that to you. It really does. Uh one of the, of course, what one of the songs that came off that album that really was one of the top notch songs and that was all over the place was Sour Girl. And you know what's funny? I've been hearing that song so much more lately, and I don't know what TV show or music I had heard it in recently, but every time you listen to it, it's such a again it is that song on the album that is like in the middle because it's like number five, and it's like it's a nice melody. Even the way his voice is, Wylan, and the way the music is arranged, it's so different. It's I can't explain how good that song is. If you've never heard Sour Girl, again, go listen to it. You don't even have to listen to the album. Go listen to Sour Girl. All right. And then of course, the rest of the album, No Way Out, Sex and Violence. Glide is a song that holds a special place in my heart. I don't know why. It's I remember listening to it and going, wow, this is interesting. It reminded me of being on a roller coaster. I don't know why. Probably because I don't know. I'm extremely strange or something, I guess, or I don't know, whatever. I just that's what it reminds me of. Uh, but I Got You is a bad tune, bad tune. The lyrics to that song, uh, earn a place by itself. And I got you to was it to find the roses on my and I got you and I got you to na, 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 na. I'm forgetting the lyrics as I sing it. I actually have to look them up, man, because they're so good. And I remember like again, trying to memorize that song as quick as I could, just to just to like just to learn the cool ass lyrics to go along with it. Just again, one of the many songs that amongst the others that just like creep out from that album that just didn't get its due. Uh, oh yeah, and I got you. It's the craving for the good life that sees me through troubled times when my mind begins to wander to the spoon. So again, like it sounds to me like he was obviously Wyland was talking about his problems with drug addiction and whatnot. But the lyrics that I always loved was, "And I got you to paint the sorry on my day, and I got you to paint the roses on my grave." Man, that is awesome, man. I mean, what a great song. MC5, really kick-ass tune. The way they arranged the music on each album was very interesting too, because there's no like set pattern, and they put them in perfect places to kind of go up, kind of go down, slow things down, speed things up, take you on like a total ride, which you really appreciate when bands do that, and it's arranged a certain way, because you get the full, you get the full package. You get the full package with everything, and of course, one of the best songs ever is the last song on the album. And I'm talking about a little bitty song called Atlanta. Atlanta. Oh, funny thing, my buddy, again, Frank, comes back to mind. I remember him and I loved that song off that album. And I remember, I think we were in Cancun for like our second time. And all I remember is being smashed, him and I do singing that song over and over on the beach. I don't know why, but that's what comes to mind. I think like it was crazy early in the morning going back and forth with that song. Oh man, what a good tune. There are certain songs that if you had to just pick like 10 songs from a group that you could put in a capsule or really hand to people for them to appreciate musically, Atlanta would be one of them from the Stone Temple Pilots. Um, it's simple, it's genius, and it just sounds wonderful. And I don't think it's expected when you listen to the album, because sometimes when you used to get an album, as I said, I don't know if anybody buys CDs or whatever anymore, records. I know that's big now. It's gone retro. The word retro, whatever that is. You'd go through the album quickly just to kind of boom, 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 and then like you would get to like Atlanta, and you'd be like, holy shit! Wait a second, let me go back again, and then you and it was like so different than what else was on the album, or again arranged in such a wonderful way. But Atlanta is a phenomenal song, man, and you got to really. I used to like just close my eyes and kind of play that song at a really mellow level and just kind of meditate to it. And the lyrics, she lives by the wall, and oh man, just takes you on a trip, man. And I think it's one of those songs too where you can really appreciate Weiland's lyrics, the music, and the diversity of the group. And that's something I think I've said so many times today that I'm actually annoying myself, but that's what really makes a group special. And again, this group especially was able to just do so many things, just diverse as can be, and were on so many different playing fields with their stuff, which made them even 10 times more appreciative. Sour Girl actually won MTV video. Well, they were nominated. I'm sorry, Video MTV Video Music Award for Best Cinematography. I don't quite remember the video though. I must admit, Down was nominated for a Grammy for Best Hard Rock Performance, and well deserved for that matter. Uh, Fifth album, okay, which I think was again I think it was misunderstood. I think it was absolutely genius. And it was absolutely a time for them and an album where going into the like you kind of usually when you hear a new album you kind of I guess you want I could use the word what to expect to some extent. This album I think changed all that. I remember getting this album and like listening to it, going through it again really quick and saying to myself, wow, I got to go back and listen to that again. And you'd go back and you listen to it again, and you go back and you listen to it again and again and again and again. And it's like its own separate entity. That's what I love about this group, man, is that each album is a separate thing. It's a separate story. It's a separate being. It's alive. Each song fits within the universe of that album. And first of all, again, another kudos for whoever came up with that title, Shangri-La Di Da. I mean, they had five kick-ass albums, five kick-ass titles. I mean, think about it. Shangri-La Di Da. I mean, I know what Shangri-La is, but I don't know what Shangri-La Di Da is, but it sounds pretty cool. It sounds like a real, either a real badass place or a real badass sexy lady. Oh look, there's so and so. Oh yeah, I know Shangri-La Di Da. Sure, we had espresso. I don't know. That's what it reminds me of, man. But which was interesting because I as I'm looking up information about it, I see that it was supposed to be actually a double album dedicated to the memory of Andrew Wood. But supposedly Atlantic Records wasn't feeling that, and of course Andrew Wood, another phenomenal lead singer from the group Mother Love Bone. Um, again, you know, someone who gone way too early. Unfortunately, he had passed, struggled with drug addiction. Um, he died extremely early with that music movement, March 19th of 1990, at the young age of 24. If you can imagine. So he comes from a time and place that predated this stuff, so kind of like a foundation, if you will. And again, he was part of that group, uh, Mother Love Bone, another great name for a band. And of course, Andrew Wood played with the great Stone Gossard, Jeff Ament, who would go on to be part of Pearl Jam. So again, timing amazing of all this musical talent all together. Again, it was our 60s, man. The 90s were our 60s. But getting back to Shangri-La Da, yeah, great album, man. Not what you expect. Okay, I don't think if you go through the albums from start to finish, this you'll say, "Woo, I didn't expect that one." And again, there are so many really appreciative songs that you can't just put them in a certain category like Dumb Love. Of course, Days of the Week was like one of the first commercial hits off that album, and it's a great song, man. It's such a great song. It sound, Weiland's voice again. I think that as the music was progressing and the band was progressing, you appreciated his voice so much more because he was, changing. He was just kept growing, as did the band musically. They just kept getting better and better with each album. But yeah, Dumb Love is a really, really cool tune off that album. They had so many cool tunes off that album that just didn't get their due. I mean, one of my favorites from there is Bipolar Bear. Is that not one of the best names for a song, Bipolar Bear? I remember like right away seeing that song on the album, boom, went right to it and played it, man. It was so good. Hollywood Bitch, great song. Coma, great song. Wonderful is, listen, again, I think if it's one of those songs that you really want to appreciate, Wonderful is definitely one of them. You can really appreciate his vocal talents there. It stands out. Definitely one of those that stand out. One song that I've been listening to off the album, rather recent, is Regeneration. I don't know why, but it's got me hooked. There's this great camaraderie of music in that song, and then like the music kind of stops and you just hear Weiland saying regeneration so many times, but it's the buildup of everything together uh that, I don't know, really has me hooked. And again, an album that I don't think ever really got its due. And if you're a real big Stone Temple Pilots fans like myself, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you will appreciate it a whole lot more. Because commercially, again, going by the numbers I'm just seeing here, they sold, I think it was one of their lowest selling albums, 500,000 in the U.S., 50,000 in Canada. Which, again, these are numbers. Who knows when they were updated, whatnot, but numbers aside, it was a phenomenal album. And again, it had Days of the Week, Hollywood Bitch, which, at the time, the funny thing too was this is 2001. So the world was changing, technology was changing, the radio was changing, the internet was getting bigger. So we didn't have what we had prior to that. The 90s were over now. Okay. And, 2000 had happened, and, we're in 2001 now. So he is one of the many bands from that time that carried over into this time, um, and were able to do something in that time. And again, I don't think anyone knew what to make of anything in from 2000 and up, because I I think it was an unexpected time, and I say that only from experience and living through it. After the disaster of 9/11/01, I think that nothing was ever the same, obviously, for this planet. Nothing was ever the same for for so many different aspects of life. And I think that it just kind of, that horrible, disgusting, unfortunate event, I think, just sent everything into a tailspin of the unknown. And when you think about it musically, when the 90s had ended, that great period of musical camaraderie and genius. Usually you know, every periods through history, I should say, are put together, and kind of, I guess, guarded off musically. So the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and you kind of have the songs that fit into them. You have the 90s. Well, what's the 2000s? And I don't even know what the 2000s to 2010 were. I couldn't even tell you. There wasn't no real term for that. What was the term for that? It wasn't really the grunge era. It wasn't the 60s Woodstock era. It wasn't the soft, melody tunes of the 70s, or it wasn't like the hard rock of the 70s. It wasn't the disco era. It wasn't the songs of the 80s, the hair bands, if that's what you want to call it, stuff like that. There was none of that. It wasn't the music of the 50s, with the cafes and the pompadours and the leather jackets and whatnot, and the collars all up, or the big band music of the 20s and 30s and 40s and whatnot. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So this is an unknown time, unknown waters. And here's this wonderful album that's put out there, and it fits in perfectly. So again, so many cool songs off that album. Um, Black Again, Hello It's Late, Too Cool Queenie, um, Transmissions from a Lonely Room, A Song for Sleeping, Long Way Home. Great, great album, man. Great, great album. You want to laugh? Funny story. I was lucky. and blessed to see Stone Temple Pilots perform. I think for only my second time I saw them. This is going back, man. At the Dysfunctional Family Picnic. I say that as I bring my ugly mug closer to the mic because there is no dysfunctional family picnic anymore. It's something that if you didn't know about, you don't know about it, and if you didn't live through it, you don't know about it. It's one of those things you have to look up in the I don't know, the space, in whatever you want to call it, the air, the internet. Look it up. Um, I remember I saw them at I forgot that the concert venue out in Jersey. There, it's indoors, but it's not. Little part of it is indoors, and the rest of it is a whole big outdoors place. Whatever the case may be, I forgot the name. But I remember you had to park your car in the lot, which is like a mile away, and then you had to walk. It was kind of Woodstockish to where the concert venue is, and security would check you and take whatever you had. You couldn't come in with certain things, and you had to, buy whatever amenities you wanted, water, food, whatever. On the inside, you couldn't bring anything in. They were actually going back to 2000, 2001. They were kind of strict about that. I think it was in 2000 when I was there, and I was there again. One of my main man Frank and a whole bunch of us. It was hot as hell that day. I remember the sun beating the living shit out of us, beating down on his butt. The venue was ridiculous. Now that I look back in it in retrospect, Stone Temple Pilots were there promoting this album. I'm sorry, not this album. They were actually promoting four. Um, but there's only a second time that I was actually able to see them live, and here was the lineup. And again, I don't remember verbatim like who was in order or whatever, so don't quote me on the order. You could probably look it up somewhere and find it, but I remember, to my extent, to my knowledge, it was the Deftones were there, and then it was Seven Dust, who was kick-ass live, and then came, I want to say, I know Godsmack was there. They were awesome. Um, they actually played a lot longer than they were supposed to because I think Limp Bizkit was there but got there late. They didn't come on yet. And they were catching shit from somebody. Somebody was giving them shit on stage about how they weren't professional and didn't show up on time. And I remember Scott Weiland came out with the Stone Temple Pilots, and they did some of the songs from Four. And I remember him kind of settling the argument between, oh, I know who it was, Scott Stapp of Scott Stapp from Creed, and what's it called? I'm losing my brain here. Um, Fred Durst were going back and forth and arguing for whatever the case may be. I don't know. They were giving each other shit. And I remember Scott Weiland stopped in the middle of a set and just kind of like basically told both of them to shut the fuck up and just play. But in any event, Stone Temple Pilots stole that show. They were amazing. It was like one of their few comeback shows. I remember when Four had come out and they were re-back together. They were on par. And this is when like Weiland even changed his looks. He had that spiky black hair. As opposed to the red cool hair he used to have, but they were killer live. And then, of course, it was Ozzy Osbourne came on, and then I remember the last act was Creed, but at that time it was 11 o'clock. We had been beating the shit out of us. The sun had beaten the shit out of us all day. We were dehydrated. We were hungry. We were tired from standing. We had no voices. We didn't stick around and see Creed, and that's not a diss at Creed because I dig I dig some of Scott Stapp's music and I dig some of Creed's music. But yeah, that was one of the few times, the second time that I saw Stone Temple Pilots, and then I actually saw them again at the same venue. Can't think of the name of the place. A third time, I forgot how many years later, and again, they did a couple of songs from this album. I would have loved to have seen them do this album by itself and live. I don't know why. This album just sticks out as one of the many, like I said, that just never really got to do. They that should have been, and maybe it was the changing of the times too. It could have been. Who knows? But it is one of the better albums they have in their wonderful catalog. And then, of course, the last album, I should say, with Scott Weiland was the 2010 album called Stone Temple Pilots with the peace symbol on it. Again, it's an album that I think you have to go back and listen to a couple times because I don't think it really got its appreciation And again, now we're talking what, this is 2010. So this is 9 years after Shangri-La died, and a lot had gone on in between both albums for both the band and for, with Scott Weiland and everything, the back and forth of them breaking up, them getting along, whatever. Scott Weiland, I believe, was he with, yeah, I think he had done the Velvet Revolver album prior to this. I think so. Let me look that up because I may be incorrect with that, but I want to be sure. And let's see, no, yeah, I'm actually correct. Yeah, this Velvet Revolver had taken place between um, this two, 2010 album, our first album, Contraband, 2003, and then of course came their second album, Libertad, had come out in between the two, which was really interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. In be, you know in be, from in between from 2001 to 2010, um, with this group. So, Scott Weiland, man, all over the place, going back and forth, to, forming, being part of that wonderful group that was Velvet Revolver, and then coming back to the Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah, it was a crazy, wonderful ride for them. But this album, this was the one album I think that even I don't think I appreciated it totally for what it was, and uh, it's one of the few that I'll go back and listen to, of course, over and over. Actually, I've come to appreciate it a lot more. Between the Lines was the more commercial hit off that album, which sounds like a hard, an old school type of Stone Temple Pilots song that kind of fits into what they were, I think. Take a Load Off, Huckleberry Crumble, Hickory Dichotomy. I can never say that word correctly. Dare If You Dare is a really good song off that album. I think that's one of my favorite ones off the whole thing. Cinnamon, Hazy Days, Bagman, Peacoat, Fast as I Can, First Kiss on Mars, and Maver. And then they had some bonus tracks, Samba Nova, live version of Vaseline, a couple of live versions of a couple of the songs from the album. But you know, I gotta say, man, one of the most, for me as a fan, it was a sad time too, as the era from the 90's had changed into the 2000s, and of course we didn't have what we had with technology, or I should say we now had more stuff that I guess you would say wasn't there in the 90's. But I will say this, and I think there is a large group of people that will agree with me, especially when it comes to in terms of music. I liked it so much more when we were able to go to the store and buy music, whether it was records, CDs, and tapes. There was, I don't know what it is, some type of special relationship, I think, between a person and these things, and looking forward to going to Sam Goody, going to Tower Records, going to Music Station. Anybody from the Howard Beach area or the Rockaway area familiar with Music Station? That's where I used to go buy my music for the most part, before everything was sold through Target. And, there was a special relationship when you can go and buy the album and go and whatever it was, and hold it in your hands, look through the lyric books, and just look to see all that went into the album, without having to go so easily on the computer and just going to it. And this, of course, too, was a time when music off the internet was getting, was getting bigger, and we as we know it, today in 2022, that's where you really get your music these days. So many people just don't go buy music no more. They don't put out albums that you can actually grab, I guess. And, you have to just go on the internet, and they put it out there that's streaming or whatever. Um, this was an end of an era. Really was an end of an era for these wonderful groups and singers that had come together in such a short amount of time, and had put out, in my opinion, was one of the greatest periods of music that there ever was. And this band, Stone Temple Pilots, was one of the forefathers for that. And that's why they always hold a special place in my heart, because again, they're one of the few bands that I can resonate with. Um, And like I said in the last podcast, that there comes a certain time in your life when a certain group, a certain singer, whatever it is, puts out music that you can take in personally and understand it for whatever reason, for whatever you're going through in your life. It's almost like, as I said before, they put it out just for you. And this was a group that had done that for myself and for so many others. That's why they stand the test of time. Now, I will admit, I don't listen to the new group. Okay, that's just me. It's not that I just put it this way. I can't I can't put the two together. And while I love the DeLeos and Eric Kretz, um, I think they're phenomenal. I can't do it, and it's not a diss at anybody, man. I would gladly. And also too, I haven't had the chance to do it, but I would definitely. I definitely would. I'm open to definitely. I mean, music is music. A good song is a good song. You have to appreciate it for what it is. Sometimes and forget all the little things that go into it. But there was a special sound, a unique sound, a one of a kind sound that they had when Weiland was part of that group. And I don't think again, I'm not trying to say anything negative about the group. That's just my opinion. But let's look back at it. In the short amount of time, right? They were able to put out 6 wonderful albums. How many songs they had off those albums, how many hits they had off those albums, not taking into also the live performances. When I want to say, like I said, but live performances is when MTV was actually having the concerts, and you would see them live if you were able to see them live. You know, it didn't matter what period it was from, whether it was from the 90's or when they had band got back together. They were still tight as can be. They were very tight together musically. I wish they could have stayed together and just kept on writing music and kept on going. And I guess it must be so hard when you're in a music group and you have all these different personalities coming to the center with something creatively. It's never easy, without a doubt. But by far, one of my favorite bands of all times, and I think one of the greatest bands of all times, who definitely deserve their place in the music heavens of greatness. And again, like I've said before, it's very rare in this world where we see a group come together, no matter how many members there are, and are able to gel into one amazing entity. And they were one of them. They are, like I said, one of the forefathers for that wonderful time of music during the 90's, and they were able to go on from there. I wish it would have been longer. I'm sure all the fans wish it would have been longer. Um, so if you get a chance and you have not been a fan of STP, or you were never really big into them, man, go and revisit their whole catalog. Okay, go and revisit that catalog and appreciate it for what it is, because it was an amazing ride, man. An amazing ride. Even more amazing for us that were there to actually see it take place. Coming from and living through the 90's up till now, and all that has taken place in the world of music and technology. It was an amazing ride. Nick, it's one of the rides that can never, they're one of the groups that can never be done again. They stand their place in time, and they always will, for that matter, no matter what. So I wanted to dedicate this episode to just the Stone Temple Pilots and all things Stone Temple Pilots. And I hope you enjoyed this ride with me, a little step back in time where we concentrated on a certain group, which I will be doing with certain episodes. I like to dedicate certain episodes to certain groups, maybe, all from the 90's, obviously, who were predominantly big during the 90's, but, or certain musicians, I should say. I like to dedicate it to them, or certain shows to them, as we will be doing in the future. But thank you for listening, hanging with me. You've been chilling with the beast, going through all things Stone Temple Pilots, and I look forward to episode 3. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, where I now have a fan page, or just a regular cool page where I'll post up some stuff. But definitely give a listen. Appreciate it. Happy New Year. Be well.